Welcome everyone. My name is Rabbi Hartz. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Student Life. The Jew who believes in Knesset Yisrael is the Jew who lives with Knesset Yisrael, where she may be and is prepared to die for her, who hurts with her pain and rejoices in her joy, who fights her wars, suffers in her defeats, and celebrates her victories. These are the words of Rabbi Soloveitchik in the Sefer quoted in one of his Tshuva drashas, Ala Tshuva. In a letter dated Vav Kislev 5715, December 1st, 1954, the Lubavitcher Rebbe addresses a group of young women in a girls' club in Eretz Yisrael. These women had just come from war-torn Europe and were surprised that the Jews who had come from war-torn Europe did not show more devotion and self-sacrifice to Judaism in Eretz Yisrael like they did in Europe. The Rebbe's language is powerful. For all of those who stem from a Jewish religious home or from a Jewish family in general, who very recently stood with Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, for multiple months, how much more so for many years, it is impossible that this was not implanted in their souls. It is also impossible that this was not transferred to their sons and daughters as well, being that the characteristics of the father, especially those expressed in daily life, for a considerable time, are imbued in the souls of their sons and daughters, becoming a part of them. To use one line from the Rebbe's letter, Ki kol davar hanirkash ayidei zizuim nafshim v'tnaei chaim kashin. Anything that is acquired through intense struggle and difficult living conditions, efshar l'shorshoy ula'akroi afilu baratzon. It's impossible to remove and uproot it, even baratzon, even willfully. Tonight we are meritorious to have with us heroes of the Jewish people, people who have committed their own lives, their own families, their own souls to support a Jewish community that before they left on their holy endeavors, they never had met before. And now, because of a very unfortunate and brutal war, they have found themselves even more powerfully engaged in threats to their own life and threats to the lives of the people that they have given their every strength and power to. To these rabbis, with Chaim, with Levi, the people of Kharkov, Ukraine, are not a headline. They are a reality. They are holy Jews, a smiling face, a person with a name and a story. A family who they have had in their homes, I'm assuming, and who they have met and gotten to know. As we listen to the stories of Rabbi Levi, Raices, and Rabbi Chaim's Levinson, please learn from them how you too can sacrifice for your fellow Jew, and how we all can make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable so that we can be connected, as the Rav says, as Rabbi Soloveitchik says, to Knesset Yisrael. Can you give a smile to someone who makes you feel uncomfortable? Can you help that elderly neighbor who needs a visitor? Rav Levi and Rav Chaim have this in their souls. When we hear from them, let's have their souls impact our souls as well and make that connection to them and their stories so that we can all support the nation and people we care so deeply about, the Jewish people. And with that self-sacrifice, through recognizing the true heroes of the Jewish people, we should see a time when the world sees war no more, with the coming of our righteous Mashiach speedily right now. Amen. We want to welcome Rav Chaim and Rav Levi to share personal stories and reflections on the current situation in Ukraine.
Good evening. During the 1950s, in a park in Russia, there was an elderly Jew sitting on a bench with a Hebrew dictionary. A police officer approached him. He started politely. He asked him, "How about if you close this dictionary? It's very inappropriate." So he says, "No, I would like to continue reading this dictionary." The police officer asks him, "Why do you need to read the Hebrew dictionary? You'll never leave Russia. You'll never make it to Israel." So the Jew says, listen, you see, I'm an older person. They say that in Gan Eden, in heaven, the language is Hebrew. So the police officer asks him, who says you'll end up in heaven? Maybe you'll end up somewhere else. So he says, listen, the Russian language I know already. Let's just start with Milsa the B'dichasel. We find in Torah, in Parshas Vayeshev, Yosef HaTzadik, when he was sold by his brothers, he was the Ishmaelim were taking him to Mitzrayim, and the Posek spends a few words telling us what type of schayra they were taking to Mitzrayim to sell. They were taking different types of spices, psalmim. And Rashi asks, why was it important? Why is it important? Every word in Torah is precise. Why is it important for the Torah to write what type of schayra they were taking to sell in Mitzrayim? And Rashi explains that Shelo yariach oiser tzadik reach ra shel reach ra. Usually the Ishmaelim carry schayra with bad smells. Hashem protected Yosef. He should not have to smell all the way to Mitzrayim. He shouldn't have to smell any bad smells. And here, the question arises: Rabbi Shalom, is that what Yosef was expecting from Hashem at the moment? That Hashem should protect him from bad smells? Yosef wanted from Hashem something more than that. Why is this what Hashem is giving to Yosef? So one of the answers given by the Mefarshim is that Hashem was throwing a remez, a hint to Yosef. Yes, you're going through a very hard time now, but there's a kavanah al-yena going on with this whole thing, and I want to throw you a remez that I'm with you. And this was the remez that Hashem gave him, that I'm with you the whole time. In our case, we faced a very hard time in the beginning of the war, while being there, and then traveling and being away from our home, and so on and so forth. But yeah.
Or are shluchim in Ukraine conscripted? Have they been conscripted into the army or whatever?
No.
The army of Hashem.
Wait,
No,
yes.
no, I mean the army of Ukraine, of the separatists. No, not the separatists. What do you call it? The fighting the Russians.
No,
The
we're not.
Ukrainian army.
Your male over a certain age.
They won't accept us. We have American citizenship.
I see.
Even if we wanted to.
Also, if you have more than 3 children, you're exempt. Most of us have more than 3 children. So Hashem threw us a lot of remozim, a lot of hints to show us that He's with us every moment. I personally experienced a number of them. We were in the middle of, my family was in the middle of renewing our Ukrainian documents, and we had to give in our American passports for translation and notarizing. And then we got a call that we could pick up our documents. My wife went. It was the end of the day. She 6 o'clock the office closes. 5 to 6 she picked up our passports. 5 minutes later, that office closed. It never opened up again. Next morning, the war started. That office never opened up again. Could you imagine if this could have been just one day later? You see how Hashem how Hashem looks after us. This was before the war started. We already saw how Hashem was looking after us. We have a person in our community by the name Chaim that went to fight, and he excused himself for an hour to go and daven shachris. Came to the synagogue to daven shachris. While he was davening, the place where he would have been blew up. You see the Siyata Shmaya. He went to daven shachris and his life was saved. Sounds like a story that we read in a storybook from 200 years ago. This is a fresh story just a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, we actually we have two offices over here in New York and in Israel, helping people leave their cities and either go to more secure places in Ukraine or to cross the border. And this office is working around the clock, both in New York and in Israel. And in our city, Kharkov, every single day, ever since the past month, buses go out with people and come back with food and medicine to provide to people. And it's organized lists, who's going to go today, who's going to go tomorrow, who's going after tomorrow. There's a group of people that were designated to go on Wednesday. And for some reason, the Chabad of Kharkov, Hashem arranged that there was a confusion, and the Wednesday list was taken for Tuesday. It went Tuesday instead. Tuesday night, there was a building that blew up in Kharkov. A number of people and the boss lived in that building that was blown up Tuesday night. And the Chabad of Kharkov arranged that they shouldn't be on the Wednesday bus, they should be on the Tuesday bus. Seemingly by mistake, this is the way Hashem saved their lives. There's many more remozim, hints that Hashem threw to us, how He's with us every moment. You'll be hearing from Rabbi Levi Raices soon. I just want to personally express my gratitude to Hashem for saving me, for saving so many Jews. My personal story was after a full week being on the fire, and it was coming closer. It was already on within our few blocks. At one point, our house was shaking. We literally shaked the Gashmias felt it. At some point, we realized that there's no way out. We'll have to leave and help our community leave. I thought it was going to be a simple thing. Like always, you pick up a phone and you call. We have a number of different drivers when we have to travel somewhere. Suddenly I realized it's not that simple for a number of reasons. First of all, many of the drivers are in the army. The ones that are not are scared that they'll be taken from the highway straight to the army. Some are scared that Obama's going to hit their car. And then there's one more problem. There was a problem with gas. Suddenly the whole gas was cut. So we had a hard time getting a car all night. I was calling Pikuach Nefesh Deiche, people sleep. I woke up drivers all night trying to get a car till finally, with great hardship, we found cars to take our families and to help other people in the community. And it's hard to describe the feeling when driving through the streets of the city while it's being bombed. want to express my gratitude to Hashem for saving me and my family, and saving so many Yidden, and I would like to express a tefillah to Hashem that all the rest of the Jews which are still under fire, Hashem should help them. They should have a gula, and we're now in Chodesh Nisan, the Nisan Nigalu, the Nisan Asiden Ligal. We should be zeicher to the general gula mitzvah shlema. Hashem should take us out of Golus speedily in our days. Amen.
Okay, we shall continue.
I'm going to continue. I have one request from Rabbi Levi. I
Yes.
want you to tell the story about the boy, the farm principal boy that's filming that I
got
heard from David Margolia.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Chaim that when we realized that we had to leave, I didn't have a taxi. I wasn't sitting and calling taxis because I had a different idea and a different plan, and that plan didn't work out. And thank God that the Chaim was sitting all night finding taxis, so he found one for me too. We had a minivan, and to give you an idea what usually costs to get to where we were going to, we were only going to the next city, to Dnepropetrovsk, which usually takes 3 hours. This time it took like 8 hours because of the checkpoints and the traffic. And usually it cost around $100 to $125 to go with a regular taxi, if you hire a taxi. Just to give you an idea, this little trip costed $2,000. That was the difference. And well, it's time of war, so that's what's going on. So that's number one. Number two, I would like to say that when we were sitting for 1 week under the bombs at home with our 5 little children, the older children are already learning in the States, so we had the 5 younger children with us, and we're getting messages from friends and family, and even from other people that we didn't even know, from New York, from Israel, that they're saying Tehillim for us. I never thought that, everyone goes into a situation where you're saying Tehillim for somebody, right? Suddenly, the focus is on us, and we never dreamt that this would come. Sitting, who would ever think that would be under bombs? It's not my cup of tea. In any case, sitting and people are saying Tehillim for us, it was very, very special feeling, a very special feeling of chizuk. And I think we should continue saying Tehillim because unfortunately there's a lot of Jews who are still there, and I hope they'll be protected. We'll get to that question, why they're still there. We'll get to that later. But they need protection, so we can continue saying Tehillim for them. There was other things that gave us a lot of chizuk. There were different messages going around with a quote from the Rebbe, a video from the Rebbe speaking about such kind of situations, where the Rebbe explains how we should look at it, what should be our outlook. For instance, the Rebbe was speaking in 1980 about the war in Afghanistan, and the Rebbe said, a Yid, when he sees 2 nations are fighting, that shouldn't be considered our problem. What does that mean? It means to say that our problem is Yiddishkeit. Our problem is living a Jewish life. 2 goyim went to war, so it's not our problem. Now, you have to realize what that means. It means to say that if a person is walking around all day long and trying to find out the news and giving it his opinion, which people like to do, especially between Mincha and Ma'ariv, right? Give your opinion and figure out what they said and what it meant and what's going to be, and everyone's saying their thing. And instead of doing what they're supposed to do as Jews, they choose to speak about these opinions, so then they have it a little bit all confused. It's supposed to be the other way around. So that's what the Rebbe means when he's saying that it's not our problem. It means what should be our focus? That's the question. Now, is it really not our problem? Of course it's our problem. We have to convince every single person in the world to keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. That there should not be no wars, there should be no killings. That's for sure our problem. And in this case, the problem is even stronger because this time it's not we're in a place where there's no Yidden. It's a place where there's full of Yidden. People that we know, that we dealt with, and we deal with even now as we talk. We're dealing with them the whole time. And this is one of the miracles, by the way, also gratitude to Hashem, that the communication wasn't knocked out on the first day, which they told us it's going to be knocked out right away, and it wasn't. It's already 6 weeks, and it wasn't knocked out, and we're actually in touch with these people. So such kind of messages, and we one time opened up the Rebbe's letters, Igris Kodesh. On one side, the Rebbe is speaking about Yud Beis Tammuz, a special time of miracles, and it's going to be miracles higher than nature, above nature. And on the other side, it's talking about a Yid has to elevate himself, and his spirituality should be higher than his physical needs. So these things give us a lot of chizuk. And after all, we left with all our things behind. Now, what happened was that in the beginning we had no plan to leave, no thought that this is going to go this far. We were sure, not just us, everybody in the city, Goyim, Yidden, Goyim, everybody was sure that this is not going to come to this. It's the fact. On all levels, people were sure that's not going to happen. And we had no intention to leave because we didn't come there as tourists. We came to live with the Yidden, grow with them, and finish goals with them. That's what we're there for. And when the time came that we realized that we had to leave, and that's because they started to bomb regular buildings. In the beginning, they were just bombing the soldiers, the police, the government. When they started to bomb everything, and it was getting closer, so not only did we leave, but we started to help everybody else leave and encourage them. Sometimes one word of encouragement got families to leave, just a phone call. Because people get stuck, they're in shock, they don't know what to do, and they don't want to leave their home, and they need encouragement. Some people, the encouragement is not enough. One person told me, I'm not leaving because my building wasn't hit. I mean, go argue with that. Okay, the next building was hit, not my building. So you have all kinds of people, all kinds of, most of the reasons why people don't leave is because their husbands can't leave because they have to be for the army from age 18 to 60, so they don't leave, and then the rest of the family doesn't want to either go. So you have all kinds of situations. Okay, now with the bar mitzvah story. So one of our students, we work together in Kharkov, in Yeshiva. We have a group of kids. We call it, the program is called Yeshiva Khan. You can't compare it to a regular yeshiva because the kids and their families are all new to Yiddishkeit. Some of them just came just this year. So that's what we call it. The program is called Yeshiva. And we have a big Jewish school, which is also an interesting point, that the Jewish school, the day before the war, one day before, Wednesday, Thursday morning it started, 5 o'clock in the morning. Woke me up 5 o'clock in the morning. For that alone, I should. Anyway, so the day before, there was a celebration in the school for 30 years of the school. And the next day, and since then, the school isn't working. Now, what I want to bring out with that point, with the fact that there was a 30-year celebration of the school in February, so the question is why in February? You know, since when does the school year start in February? And the answer is very simple. When Yiddishkeit is at stake, and I came a few years after everything started in the former Soviet Union. I was there for 28 years, from Chanukah Tovshin Nun Dalet, 94. Rabbi Moskowitz was the chief rabbi in Kharkov. He was there 4 years before. So when he opened up the school, it's not that he was waiting for a special day to open the school. Whenever it came the time, whenever it was possible, that day he opened it up. And that's why it opened up in February. So it's an important message that when it comes to opening up something for the Jewish community, you shouldn't wait. If it's something important, you start right away. What's going to happen afterwards, and all the cheshbonos we'll deal with later. So that's when the school celebrated 30 years, exactly 30 years. The next day the war started. So we have the children that we deal with, and after we were running, and I realized that there's one boy whose bar mitzvah is coming up, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, this past Shabbos, a few days ago. So I called up Chaim Mordechai, who we just spoke about, just to go off track and drop with Chaim Mordechai. So he's a Yid that joined our community like maybe 4 years ago. And then since then he made a bris, and since then he puts on tefillin every day, and he comes to learn every single day. And he wanted to join the army. He's around 50 years old. He wanted to join the army with his whole heart. I'm going to go fight these evil Russians. I'm going to go fight them. So he came to my house, and he was there. He was actually in my house Friday night. Sunday morning, he comes to my house, and he brings me the keys to his apartment, some money. He brings me some documents, and a list of people who I should contact just in case he doesn't make it. Okay? So I give him $1 that I got from the Rebbe for protection. I gave him a mezuzah for protection. We know that we put a mezuzah on the door, but you can have a mezuzah with you for protection. And off he goes. The next day, he's back. What happened? He said, they told me that since you don't have experience, he was in the army when he was 20. So you don't have experience, your chances of survival is 40 seconds. So they said, you want to pack up sandbags for the army, you can do that. And then the end was that he came to shul, and he became one of the volunteers. The shul till today is being used right now as a bomb shelter. A lot of people are living in the shul. And most of them come and go. So they're saved from a bombed out building. They're brought to the shul, and the next morning they go on the bus. So he's one of those people that go through the bullets to go help them, bring them. And he's also bringing food to old people that don't want to leave. They say, we can't make this trip, it's too difficult for us. And they're home. Hashem should protect them. And he brings them food and medicine. So he's not the only one, but he's my focus right now. So so I call him up and I tell him, look, let's hold a second. So he started to work at the shul. When I left, I gave him back his keys and his money. I gave him my keys. I didn't give him my money, only a little bit. In any case, so I contacted him and I tell him, Chaim, there's a bar mitzvah boy coming up. He needs to learn. He needs to put on film. I have a new pair of film for him, and it's sitting in the building of the yeshiva. And I say, I'm not 100% sure where it is. It's either in one place or in my office. I said, look, if you don't find it in that place where it might be, just break the door of my office, break it open, because I'm not going to go explain to you where the key is. It's going to take you too long to find it, too long to explain. Just break the door. And I was a little hesitant because the day before, something fell on the building. They were bombing the marketplace next door, very close to the yeshiva, like a block away. And something fell on the roof. A bomb or a part of a bomb, I'm not sure. Something fell on the roof. Thank God there was no fire, no explosion, and nothing happened. So I was hesitant, maybe I'm sending him to a place that's being bombed. But he said right away, you gotta go. He went and he broke the door and he found the tefillin. And the guard who was in charge of guarding the yeshiva, he's living in the basement of the yeshiva right now. And he calls me up, he says, Rabbi, I'll fix the door. We had to break it open together, but we'll fix it. I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, there's bombs flying and he's worrying about fixing doors. In any case, he got the tefillin and he brought it over to this boy, whose name is Nissim, and he taught him how to put on tefillin. And I think to myself, how's he going to learn from one time? You can't learn to put on tefillin from one time. But so the mother, the next day, she sends me a picture of him in tefillin. I have the picture on my phone if you want to see it. He sent me a picture of him in tefillin, and she tells, they just started like a year ago. They started coming to us. She says, "Is he doing it right? Please tell me, because Chaim taught him how to do it, but it was only one time. So we went online and we looked at pictures and videos how to put on film, but we're not sure if we're doing it 100% right." When I saw that picture and I saw her question, I couldn't think of any other word besides what says inside Hashem's tefillin. It says every bar mitzvah boy in Chabad says a piece of a medrash where it discusses what's inside our tefillin. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We're talking about Hashem, and in Hashem's tefillin it talks about the Jewish people. Mi kamcha Yisrael b'echad ba'aretz. Who was like the Jewish people? And that's what I was thinking. Look at Yiddish and Neshama. They're worried about food. They're worried about bombs. And they're worried about putting on tefillin the right. The mother is worried that her son is putting on tefillin the right way, and I'm telling them that he doesn't even have to put on tefillin yet. He's going to have to put it on after his bar mitzvah. Now we're just practicing in order that he should do it right when the bar mitzvah comes, which is our minhag that we put on tefillin sometime before. So on the day of the bar mitzvah, we should do it like a professional. So the end was that on Shabbos, of course, on his bar mitzvah, he didn't put on tefillin because of Shabbos. The next day, Sunday, 2 days ago, we had a Zoom with some of the students that left already on the other side of Ukraine, the West Ukraine. Some of the students are already in Israel. And there's a few that are still in Kharkov. And us, and other people, whoever, some Bachrim that were there in camp in the summer, we got them all together on a Zoom to celebrate his bar mitzvah. So, it was very special. I would say for me it was very emotional, but it's a very special thing. And they're not planning to leave, and I hope they're protected. For my part, I'm in touch with them the whole time. on my part, I try to send them some money onto their bank cards so they can have at least, it's very strange because you're saying there's bombs going on and there's still the supermarkets working. It's not simple. They work for a few hours, they don't have much to sell, prices are up, and they're afraid that any second a bomb could hit. But when a person needs food, they go buy food. So that's what's going on right now. Unfortunately, the situation in Kharkov is heating up. It's not slowing down. There was actually a warning now from government officials in Kharkov that if you didn't leave yet, you should leave now, because what happened in Mariupol last week is being planned for Kharkov.
Carpet bombing?
Yeah, it was being planned for Kharkov. Kharkov is a big city. Mariupol is a small city, but it's very dangerous and intense right now. I hope this doesn't come. We hope for miracles. The month of Nisan, and the Rebbe's birthday is coming up, 120-year birthday. We hope for miracles. The Rebbe worries about every single Yid. Just a little story connected to Yud Nisan. This is not from now, from the war, but from before. We deal with the children and we give lessons to adults. Chaim personally deals with the students. I deal with some other classes. We're busy, Baruch Hashem, but we all take upon ourselves, besides our official jobs, everyone takes upon themselves something else to do. Mivtzoyim, go meet with you. So I took upon myself to go to jails. The Rebbe, every single Yom Tov, in all the years that I grew up in 770, every time the Yom Tov came, the Rebbe spoke about Jews in jail and Jews in hospitals. Why? Because they can't come to shul. They can't come, so you gotta reach out to them. So I took it upon myself, and from the beginning, for 28 years ago, 27 years ago, I started to go to jails. And I go a couple times a year, when it's a Yom Tov, Chanukah, Purim, before Pesach, to bring the matzahs. So this particular time, I came to a jail, there were 7 Yidden over there. And there was one person I never met. This was Yud Aleph Nisan, and I came to the Rebbe's birthday, and I came to bring the matzahs for Pesach, a few days before Pesach, to bring the matzahs for Pesach, to sign Mechiras Chametz, sell the Chametz, and to explain to them, what to do, whatever else grape juice, whatever I could bring to them, and of course, putting on tefillin. So putting on tefillin is personal, because you got to put on with every person separately. So everything else we talk about together. But I came over to put on tefillin with this Yid, so he insisted he wants to speak to me in English. Okay, fine. His English wasn't it was worse than my Russian, put it that way. And he's speaking to me in English, and then I say to him, you're putting on tefillin for the first time, it's very special. It's a bar mitzvah. He says, no, it's not my first time. I was convinced that it's his first time, because I never met him before, and he's in Kharkov in a jail, so I figured, I never saw him in shul, I figured he never put on tefillin. He says, it's not my first time, it's my second time. Where's the first time? First time I put on tefillin in a mitzvah tank in Manhattan. Can you imagine? So I think, wow, this is the first. I never heard such a thing. A guy put on in Manhattan. What are you doing in Kharkov in jail? I never asked them why they're in jail. But this time, I didn't even ask him why he's in jail. I just asked him, how did that come about? I just don't understand. So he said, look, I tried to immigrate to America, getting a green card, and I'm almost done. But he came back to do some geschäft and some business in Ukraine, in Kharkov. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't ask him, and he didn't tell me. So I'm not sure what he did wrong or what he did right. I'm not sure. But in any case, he ended up in jail, and it's his second time putting on tefillin. And I thought to myself after that, today's the Rebbe's birthday, the 11th of Nisan, and this is really what the Rebbe meant by sending shluchim all over the world. That a Yid should be covered no matter where he goes. There shouldn't be a possibility for a Yid to be somewhere where he suddenly feels disconnected from Judaism. That should never be. You're Manhattan. You're in the jail of Kharkov. No matter where you are, you should be covered. You should be connected. So that's one of the reasons why is people ask, why do you have a shliach sometimes in a city where there's so little Jews? Someone else asked me. I have a brother-in-law in another city in Ukraine called Sumy. It's even closer to Russia, and it was really hit hard a few weeks ago. And he ran away at the same time like we did. If he would have stayed one more day, I don't know, he wouldn't be able to leave. But in any case, he ran with his family just like we did. So someone asked me, he says, why did your brother-in-law go to a city where every apartment building in Israel has that many Jews as much as in the city of Sumy? So I tell him the Yid in Israel, no matter what apartment building he lives in, he can always find the shul. He can always find what he needs. But the Yid in Sumy, he's not going to find. So every Yid has to be covered. So you have to have a Yiddishkeit everywhere. That was the point of this story. Also, I want to say just sometimes there are people like interesting things that happened on the way. On the way, we were on a bus. Oh, so we got to Dnepropetrovsk, and then we went on a bus from Dnepr to Kishinev to Moldavia. It was a 24-hour trip with the police escort. If regular, it should take 10 hours. With the police escort, it took us 24 hours. And not for that, it would have taken us 48 hours. Because so much traffic, it was impossible. But Baruch Hashem, on the bus, what does a Chabadnik do when he's on the bus with other Yidden who are also running? Most of them from Kharkov. You guessed, put them on tefillin. If they're males, right? So we had 5 Yidden. There was a lot of men, women, and children all together on the bus. 5 Yidden put on tefillin, one of them for the first time. So we had a bar mitzvah on the bus. I mean, people weren't exactly in the mood of celebrating. But once you had a bar mitzvah, so we started to sing songs, and, to wish him mazel tov for his bar mitzvah. Another little episode, and before we go to the questions, in Moldavia, in Kishinev, when it was Parshas Pikudei, Shabbos Chazak, when we finished Chumash Shmois, we had a special feeling which we could call Ki Imanu Kel, that Hashem is with us. The feeling was when the Balkoida finished the last words of the Parsha, B'chol Maseihem, B'chol Maseihem, and then everyone shouts out, Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazak. B'chol Maseihem means in all of your travelings. And so it felt personal. We're traveling in a difficult time, and we get a message, Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazak. And it should be so. We should come out strengthened from all of this. Go ahead.
So just in case anyone, we should also point this out, we have signs in the back for those who are interested in, because the point of tonight's event is besides the Torah and Tefillah that we're engaging in, part of the Tefillah maybe we could do a little bit later with the Hillim, but the Tzedakah signs are in the back for those who want to donate to the cause of Chabad of Kharkov, obviously supporting the Jews there. The picture, I designed it about an hour ago. I was a little bit late organizing this event, but not relating to you guys. I've been running after you guys for 3 weeks. I'm sorry to be such a nundik, but the picture in the back of the sign that says Tzedakah is this bar mitzvah bacher who Levi was talking about.
Yes,
and I'll be very honest. I was wondering who are these Chabadnikim who are going to come and speak, and I work at Yeshiva. I don't want a bad name, whatever. Chabadnikim, they can be a little bit crazy. So I'm crazy. I'm one of them. Baruch Hashem. Being crazy is a good thing. I'm saying it l'mal yusa. Anyway, so one of the things that was said to me was about both Rav Chaim and Rav Levi is that they're genuine. They're emistic. And I said, that's exactly what we need. And this is the story that was shared with me by someone from the Chabad.org. And when I heard this story, Rav Levi, I hope I'm not revealing too much, but you have no choice at this point in time. But on the recording, Rav Levi revealed a very emotional part when he said, Mi k'amcha Yisrael, goyechad ba'aretz, he started crying a little bit on the recording. The recording I heard. I'm not trying to embarrass you and make out that you're emotional in front of other people. I'm joking. But it was very sweet. And when I heard that message, I thought that is exactly what we need to hear. That this community needs to hear that message of being, and I said this to Levi Levitansky, that the message we want to send tonight is one of being mashrish, being rooting within all of us, the message we all need to hear of Mesiras Nefesh for another Jew, for another Yid. So we're going to open the floor for anyone who has any questions, any personal insights. We encourage, obviously direct questions about the situation in Ukraine, anything that Rav Levi, Rav Chaim can provide us information about. But more importantly, any other questions or that you might have for either one of them. This is a personal moment for all of you to learn a little bit about what they do and learn a little bit more about the community that they serve. So if we have any questions, yes?
So first, thank you both very much for coming.
Do you want to come up forward to I have to, video has to hear you, so let's make sure they hear you. So I want people who are going to hear the event afterwards to hear you. Go ahead. Good, that's good.
So thank you very much both of you for coming. It's a really powerful program, and it's really crazy to hear about this first-hand accounts.
We can't hear. So the women in the balcony can't hear you. So
All women in the balcony come down.
Yay! Please, guys.
you can come down.
Don't jump.
Please, women in the balcony. No, it's fine. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead with the
Yeah.
question.
I was just curious if maybe
Come inside.
I was just curious if maybe the two of you could speak a little bit about what the community in
Kharkov.
Kharkov, I guess, is like, just in terms of how they live their lives, what their level of, I guess, religious, whatever, dedication, however you want to say that, and just how that might compare to the way most of us go about our lives.
The difference is that they 3 generations disconnected from Israel. So what any American Jew, no matter how far from religious practice, they are still more Jewishly affiliated than a Jew over there who was 3 generations, no shul, no nothing actually. So, but still, they come with a pure heart, and they unlike other religions, we encourage people to ask questions. Which people, by the way, from other non-Jews also come to us with questions, because where they go, it's not accepted to ask questions. And we like questions. Even if there's no answer, we still like the questions. So basically, they come and they usually they get involved. Everyone on their level, there's all kinds. So it's hard to say. A lot of people also over the years have left and began living a Yiddish life somewhere else in the world. So we're one of those communities in America. Also have the same thing, where people start getting involved and then they leave. So the rabbis are always starting from scratch. So that's a little bit our situation, a little bit. But on the other hand, we have some students that are themselves shlichim in other parts of the world because they really went to yeshiva, took it really seriously. So you have all kinds. Chaim?
We see
Anyone else? Yes, please in the back. Well, either one.
Okay. After you?
It's the same question, same thing.
I don't think it's the same question. Probably not. I'm happy to next.
I've seen in response to Putin's rather absurd claims about Nazi presence in Ukraine that Ukrainians on social media have been very actively promoting Chabad volunteers who are in the Ukrainian army. I was wondering how many individuals local from the community and are involved in the military and what work is being done to help them as they're involved.
I was just in touch with one of the students in the Jewish school. His name is Burevich. He's in the Ukrainian army before the war started. And I was in touch with him about how you should go to the shul to get some matzahs for Pesach. There were pictures of soldiers with long beards in the army. Of course, there's a lot of Yidden. I would say the Russian army probably doesn't have too many Yidden in them, most probably, because he collected soldiers from all the villages from who knows where, next to China. He collected all of those because the rest of the Russians have relatives in Ukraine. So he wouldn't, again, this is according to what I heard. I can't say this for a fact. So, but I would imagine that it's so. Because Putin has he tries to figure out all these different things, and then he has all these interesting lies that are mamish lies. It's unbelievable. I don't want to say that America has more anti-Semitism than Ukraine, but if you're talking about government, how the government reacts to anti-Semitism in Ukraine, for the last, I'm not going to say the last 28 years, but for sure for the last 10 years, they react much stronger than the American government. Not to allow any kind of incident that takes place. So to say that it's anti-Semitism, or Germans, or not Germans, Nazis, or whatever you want to call it, in Ukraine, of course there are. You can find them everywhere. You can find them in Israel. You can find them in America, wherever you go. But to go and say it's a pure lie to say that that's why he's going to fight them. Look, he's trying to save Kharkov from the West because the Nazis are in the West and Kharkov is Russian speaking, And he's bombing Kharkov, and he's not bombing the West. So I mean, what else do you need to see that it's a lie? The West was not touched. Kharkov is being bombed now almost like Mariupol. And to go and say such a thing is pure nonsense. Some people who insist, I tried to explain to them, but they're brainwashed. I don't know. I can't understand where they're coming from. I'm there for 28 years, and I can tell you that it's a lie. Even though there are anti-Semites everywhere.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. Hi. First off, Yasher Koach and everything you do for Klal Yisrael. I'm going to take it back to the Torah aspect. So I know that I always wondered this because I always, when I live in Manhattan since high school, not high school, since college, I feel I'm a little bit famished. I just had a class before this. So when it comes to making the girls feel special, I know that when you stop the guy in the street, you put tefillin on them. That's a beautiful, special thing. How do the Chabadniks in the whole world? I don't know if this is you guys or just in general. How do they get the girls to feel that spark of Yiddishkeit? Like, what do? They get them a tefillin or something? That's not tefillin. I'm getting really confused. I'm sorry.
First of all, we allow them to ask questions.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that I got to come down because I couldn't hear up there.
See that? Okay. The women are the pillars of the Jewish home.
Listen, with that mother was talking about is he doing the tefillin right?
That's right.
That made me so proud. I'm like, yeah.
See that?
Whoever speaks about how a woman can be helped with her, let's say tefillin. Whatever. I want you to answer. I don't want me to answer. Whatever.
There's the Rebbe brings up. The Rebbe has engaged special talks to Jewish women, and the Rebbe explains to them how the whole source of the whole kiyum of the Jewish nation is all dependent on the Akeres Habayis, the Jewish woman. The Rebbe also has an interesting explanation about women's rights. The Rebbe explains that the whole shita, the whole view of women's rights, if you think about it, it's quite opposite of women's rights. Women's rights, women wanna they're trying to compete. They're trying to have all jobs like men and so on and so forth. The Rebbe says that shows on a lady that feels that she's supposed to have the rights of a man. That shows on her weakness. She feels that
Insecurity. Insecurity.
Yeah, she feels that she's lacking something, and therefore she's supposed to she's supposed to receive the jobs and anything else that men have. Women in general, Jewish women should understand the preciousness of that women have. They don't have to go and look out to have.
They should be secure about the traditional gender role.
Yeah, that's what Chassidus also explains. Why is it that women have less mitzvahs? Seemingly, it shows on less schus that they have less mitzvahs. The Rebbe explains it's the quite opposite. Women are just fine without certain mitzvahs. It's like for us to be okay, we need more mitzvahs. We have
we need to catch up.
Yeah. Women are just on a fine level without certain mitzvahs. So Chassidus explains that the opposite. Eishes Chayil is Ateres Baila. Ateres means a crown. She's the crown of her Baal.
I'm sorry to step on their toes. One of my favorite sikhs, Rabbi, I'm going to I'm gonna jump on the ship. Okay, fine. So even though I'm supposed to be just the facilitator over here, but one of my favorite sifas is about Dina. It's about the Rebbe has Rashi seems to imply that she's a Yitzanis. She goes out. That's Hefet Hasnias. We learn from Dina though. We see that Yaakov was punished by the fact that Dina wasn't allowed to be in contact with Esav. So why is Yaakov being punished for it? Because he should have known Derek Mamela, he should have known automatically that the koyach of a woman, a Jewish woman, has the ability to transform even someone as low as Esav, to transform him completely and totally. That a Jewish
Beauty and the Beast.
What's that? What you
I
say?
don't know if you know Disney, but there's Beauty and the Beast.
There's Beauty and the Beast.
Transforms the Beast into
Beauty and the Beast,
into
sure.
a prince.
But to transform the beast, you need a special magic. You need a special ability.
That goes with muscle. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Everything
you need a
is
special ability. The special ability is Dina. So he ends the sikha, he ends the talk about the special responsibility that women have, specifically women, to Yitzanis. Her ability to go out is not a negative here. It's not an
What does
expression.
Yitzanis mean?
1 second.
Going out.
Going out. That's exactly what I just said. Going out.
Not staying indoors.
Not staying indoors. But that seems to be the opposite of what sneas is supposed to be. Modesty. Modesty is inside. But the answer is that a woman has the special ability, unlike a man, who the Rebbe at the end of the Sifrei says, a man's his general way is to fight. Is to fight. It's in the Gemara in Kedushin, in the first half in Kedushin, that the way of a man is to fight and to struggle and to find things and so on and so forth. A woman's way, just by her mere existence, she has the ability to transform the environment around her. A man, he has to struggle, he has to fight, so on and so forth. A woman, just by her mere existence, has the ability to be mitaher, to purify the environment around her. And by the way, my wife also, when she was in seminary, in Machlon Liadus, she would go out every Friday and give Jewish women neshek, what we call neshek, Nero Shabbos Kodesh. So there's certainly a way for women to be participants.
What's neshek?
Neshek is Nero Shabbos Kodesh, I just said.
Candles for lighting Friday before Shabbos.
Nero Shabbos
Oh, it's an
Kodesh.
acronym for Ner
Yeah,
Shabbos
it's an
Kodesh.
acronym in
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah for Nero Shabbos Kodesh. So women are encouraged, and I was mentioning, and Rav Chaim and Rav Levi sort of nodded, and there's also a place where the Rebbe says about women that they have a certain, they also have a part in Mifsa Tefillin. And it's true, they don't necessarily put on Tefillin, but they could help other people put on Tefillin. They can buy Tefillin and so on and so forth. So,
I mean, truly that's true, because I went to Hebrew school, and I would say 95% of the teachers at this Hebrew school are women, right?
Correct.
And we're teaching.
and it's like the story that they said before about the mother making sure that their son put
and
on
my
Tefillin.
kids were, I really call them my kids. They, like, I'm getting, one of them's going to a Jewish school next year. I'm so excited. I got to write his evaluation about his fluency, and I'm preparing him, and I'm teaching him Ashrei and all these different things, so he can, like,
Yeah.
and like, it's not Orthodox, but at least he'll be learning philo, and he'll have an understanding that Jewish identity, and I'm so excited. And like, most
Good.
of the kids are boys because they're gonna have bar mitzvahs. So truly, like, I know I'm not putting on tefillin, but I know that
You're hoping
that, like,
that's Hashem, they will put on
you
Tefillin.
know, in like a few years, this is like,
Exactly.
I get that plus.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. You want to say hi?
I want to point out, I came across an interesting interview with a Chabad lady that used to be part of a Polish Hasidus community. I think she was part of the Ger Hasidim, and then she became Lubavitch, and her and her husband went on shlichus. And she was interviewed, and when she was asked what made her come to the Lubavitch, she explained that it was like an identity crisis. She was when she was in Ger, she thought to herself, "What makes me Ger? I'm a Ger. I'm part of Ger Chassidus because I'm a wife of a Ger Chassidus, and I have a relative that's of a different Chassidus." What makes her being from that Chassidus just because she's the wife of a member of that Chassidus? What's her identity? What makes? There's nothing personally about them being part of that Chassidus. As opposed to Chabad, she came to Chabad, suddenly she has a responsibility to go out on Mitzvahim, and she cooks for a meal and shlichus. Well, there's a saying about us that cholents, because sometimes being people closer to Judaism than a deep Maimer Hasidus, and she felt that there's something about her. She's a Chabad lady, not just because she's the wife of a Chabad chassid. There's something about her personally being a Chabad lady.
I'm going to violate the facilitator role for 1 second again, because I feel very.
Rules are meant to be broken.
Exactly, rules are meant to be broken.
And I just need to make a pun because it came to me and I felt like I
meant to be
needed to.
Rules
There's
are
a
meant to be
stranger
broken.
Here. Get it?
Oh,
Like here, like here.
rules.
Yeah, no. I could hear you. No, I don't. Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Chaim know the story better, and maybe the other Lubavitchers in the audience know the story. But there's a statement that one woman, Jewish woman, Lubavitcher, said to the Rebbe that about all the Rebbeim. This Rebbe was this Rebbe was this. For this one created Chassidim. This one, you Rebbe, speaking about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, said about him, you're the Rebbe for women. You created
Really,
Chassidim out of women.
I honestly I remember
Is that-
the Jewish magazines, the only thing that had a Jewish that had women in it was
Maybe
the
I'm making it up.
growing up.
Listen, I make up a lot of things. to make
It's a
it
good
up.
word.
And I'm not Chabad, but I truly had so much
No, I think, yeah.
so much respect. And the fact that we had cartoons of when I was reading, we would, I'm from Skokie, there's, I don't know if you know who Rabbi Posner is.
Oh, yeah.
So
My brother lives in Skopje.
no way! I mean, Jewish geography, we can do later. But, so, for Friday nights, I always liked going to shul. So I would go with my dad and my brothers to shul, and I always felt comfortable going, even though I was the only woman. And I'm very extroverted, if you can't tell. So I always felt very comfortable at Chabad. So I just wanted to say, I know you don't represent the whole institution, but for whatever you do represent, just to thank you that I always felt represented there. In the magazine, we even had cartoons of women, and I just remember how, in Hamodia, they don't. And it's not that, I understand, the desire,
How many weeks did you go to shul and you were the only one?
all the time.
No, but the first week I can understand, but the next week you should have invited more people.
I tried to get my sisters. They didn't wanna.
Gotta work, you gotta do your homework.
Listen, if someone teaches me, I can do the homework.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned at the beginning the importance of identifying with Knesset Israel. But there are certain barriers to that. For example, there's Jews in Russia, there's Jews in Ukraine, there's Jews in Iran, there's Jews in America, and there's Israel. And these countries often are in conflict with each other, and that can be a barrier for Jews trying to identify with Knesset Israel, because
Somebody asked me that question yesterday.
how do you do it?
Someone said, how do you feel about the Jews in Russia or Jews in Ukraine? The truth of the matter is that in this particular case, it's not even a difficult question. Because in this particular case, it's not the war of Russia, not the Jews of Russia, not the Goyim of Russia, it's the war of Putin. It's not anybody else's war. It's his ego, it's his problem, it's no one else's war, nobody else wants it. So in this case, it's not even a problem. But of course, as soon as you realize, in World War I, there was a lot of Jews fighting against Jews. It's famous. But basically, if you realize that you're not fighting against another Jew, it so happens to be there's another Jew in the army. It's a big problem. Of course, you wouldn't want to have to show hurt another Jew, and you don't want to hurt anybody. But here, they're obligated to fight. It's not simple, but it doesn't in any way it shouldn't make anyone feel that somehow there's a difference between me and another Jew because we're in different countries. We're all Yidden, we all got the Torah, we all have the same obligations, the same mitzvahs, so there shouldn't be any kind of such a feeling. But there's a famous joke when the landowner, the poet, forces a Jew to dance in the bear costume, and he puts him on, and he's supposed to dance against another bear, a real bear, right? And he puts him on, and then he gets really frightened that he's going to have to dance with a bear. Who knows what's going to happen? And he says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And the other bear says, Baruch Shem Kol Yisrael Okay, so that's this situation reminds me of this joke. because that's it. But again, in this particular case, this time it's not exactly the case.
Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
I know you guys talked about a little bit how nobody saw it coming to what it came to. So I was just wondering if you guys could take us in a little bit as to like why that was, the thought process. Maybe how it could have been different if you did see it coming, and like when it switched and like people really did start to realize. I guess maybe what the takeaway from that could be.
Look, in the beginning, the Israeli government was saying that it's not going to happen, while America was saying it's going to happen. And then they changed and decided to say it is going to happen. But the general feeling was that it's a bunch of politics and a bunch of scare tactics, and somehow they're not going to really go so far. Even when it started, it seemed like it's going to be just a question of knocking out this government, the Ukrainian government. But the Ukrainian people, we should actually learn from them. They took it so serious to protect themselves and to protect their country. And you know the famous saying, if there's a will, there's a way. So they really took it so serious that Hashem is helping them. Now, the Russians are doing something evil. The Ukrainians are not fighting an evil war right now. They're fighting to protect themselves. What are the Russians fighting for? That's number one. Number two, yeah, the Russians have power to throw missiles and just bomb buildings. The Ukrainians are not doing that, even though maybe they, I would expect them to start bombing Russian cities, but they're not doing that. They're just fighting for themselves. They're knocking out the Russian army very strongly, which was unexpected at all in the beginning. Everyone is in awe of what's going on. So, I mean, we didn't think two things. We didn't think the Ukrainians are going to fight back so strong, but we also didn't think that the Russians are going to go so far. So it was definitely a surprise. Again, I want to say one more important thing. Even non-Jews thanked us for not running. Why? Because if we would have gone, it would have caused panic. Nobody likes panic. Panic is a terrible thing. So when the bombs were hitting civilian buildings, there was no choice. There's no question of panic. Then you have to go. But before then, because we didn't leave, we didn't do it because of that, but because we didn't leave, there was no panic in all the cities of Ukraine. And till today, in those cities that weren't really bombed out, they didn't have the same thing like us, they're still, the rabbis are still there. Petrovsk, Chernovtsi, Vinnytsia, even in Zhytomyr, which was bombed in the beginning, there's still someone there, a good friend of mine, a rabbi. In Odessa, he ran and he came back. In Kiev, you still have rabbis. We always had this feeling from the beginning that we are not running away to go away forever. If there's Yidden left, I don't know God's plans, but if there's Yidden left in Ukraine, we're the shluchim to grow with them and end gullus with them. We're not there as tourists. Even now, we can say that.
And we'll take this as the last question, if that's okay, and then we'll have private conversations afterwards.
How much of the Jewish community is still at where you're from? How much of the state comes from?
It's hard to tell, but I think quite a bit. Every Jew is Olam Maleh.
Still quite a bit left, you think?
Quite a bit left and quite a bit left.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we want to thank Rabbi Chaim and Levi, a small token of our thanks. Bone nuts package. We'll probably do more for you all, but hopefully this will just be one small little token. We wanted to thank them for participating. This is how we treat heroes. Yes, this is how we treat heroes. So this is a small little token of our gratitude.
It says go nuts.
Go nuts.
Go to
Not yet. We're not going to go nuts just yet. After the phone is off, and then after the video stops, you have to make sure we go nuts afterwards. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. We want to thank our honored guests, Rabbi Chaim and Rabbi Levi. We've been working on this. We want to thank Rabbi Levi is in the back, but Rabbi Levi, could you pop in for 1 second just to show your face? Yes? No? Okay. Does he hear me? I don't know if he hears me, but we want to thank Rabbi Levi, who generously gave us the space here at Shank Shul. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Levi. It's a small event like this. Doesn't seem like there's not a lot of pieces to it, but obviously we have to have community members. We have to have people like Rabbi Kirschenbaum and other people advertising an event like this. We have to have offices in YU, many offices in YU involved and have their hands in this. And we most importantly have our guests who were very gracious of their time and their abilities to speak and to meet all of you and share their experiences. So we are tremendously grateful and in gratitude that we can never repay, really, to Rav Chaim and Levi for sharing their experiences with us. And hopefully this impact has been a positive one for all of you and for the crowd who's come tonight. And it's something that is inspirational for you and your personal Jewish growth as well. And we only wish B'suras Tovos for all Jews everywhere, no matter where they find themselves, especially
even the Jews in Russia.
Even the Jews in Russia. So the Yeshiva, the Jewish nation is something we are deeply concerned about, no matter where they find themselves. And we hope and pray for a time when, like we mentioned at the beginning, when these wars will end with the coming of Mashiach right now. Okay, thank you very much for coming. Okay, our Chaim and Levi are available for small conversations, and then we're going to bid them adieu. Thank you.
Пожалуйста.